Good evening there. Welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So tonight it's my Monday night look back at a classic rock album, and I had several choices in my mind, but I actually went with something that somebody had mentioned in one of the comments about an album on my Peter Gabriel set that they said that I rated higher than they would have expected. And so I decided to do this album this week. So this is Peter Gabriel II, also known to some people as Scratch. I still call it Peter Gabriel II. I've always known it as that, so that's what I'll stick with for this episode anyways. This album was... Sorry, I'm still got a bit of this cough going on. Okay, so this album was released June the 3rd, 1978. Produced in studio in Relight Studio in Hilvarenbeck, Netherlands. I'm not the best at pronouncers of these things. Got to listen to it a lot, I guess. The Hit Factory also in New York City. 41 minutes in length on the Charisma label, and was produced by none other than Robert Fripp of King Crimson. So, yeah, he used his Fripperonics on here. Okay, so the personnel on, there's quite a few people on this. I think there's about 11 or 12 guys on this album. Yeah, I don't see any women. I think it's all men. Yep. So Peter Gabriel, vocals, Hammond, organ, and piano, and also synthesizers. Robert Fripp, electric and acoustic guitars, and his Fripperonics. Tony Levin on bass. Chapman stick, of course, and string bass. I guess that's probably acoustic they mean. A recorder and vocals. And then we have Roy Bittan on keyboards, Larry Fast on synthesizers, Jerry Marotta on drums and backing vocals, Sid McGuinness on electric guitar, acoustic guitar, steel guitar, mandolin, and also on vocals. Beatty, I think I'm saying that right, Beatty, which is Tom Cochran, he's on keyboards. Tim Capella on sax, George Merge on Merge, I think it's pronounced Marge or Marge if it's French, recorder, and John Timms on insects. You'll see why they call it that when we get to that part. But anyways, so that there's quite a few guys on this. They were all of their instruments were listed by track as to what they played. There's way too many tracks to try to remember. Just enough to know that these instruments were all played by these guys on different tracks on the album. If I happen to remember or happen to know for sure, I may mention that while I'm listening to songs. So anyways, I'm going to get rid of those notes. So there's 11 tracks on this album. So a little bit about my history of this album. I got this album in CD probably 8 or 9 months ago, but I owned the album when I first moved out because my sister had gotten all my LPs. I did have I had a couple of cassette holders, and one of them had about maybe 20 cassettes in it, and then there was a little shop down the street from where I lived, and I started going there to buy cassettes because I didn't really have much music because I'd given it all away. I had a cassette recorder, so I played that all the time, and for the first day I went there, they had this one and Peter Gabriel 1, so I bought both of them, and it played one first, and then it played this, and then eventually what happened is that one kind of disappeared on me a bit, and I got really into this quite a bit. I played this a lot that first year I got it, and by that time I was already familiar with Peter Gabriel because I'd owned Security, and I'd had Peter Gabriel Plays Live. My friend had Peter Gabriel 3, so he actually taped that for me, so I had that one as well. And on the flip side of that was John Anderson's Animation. It's kind of funny that I remember that, but I do. Okay, so yeah, my first year I played this a lot. This is a much more mellow album than a lot of his other stuff. Doesn't have the big hits on it that you get on like Peter Gabriel III and Security and So and even Us. The only one I haven't really listened to is Up. I haven't really gotten into it yet. I've got a lot of stuff listening to, so I just haven't gotten around to it. But I can't imagine it's going to be bad since none of his stuff is. The only one that I had a bit of difficulty was Peter Gabriel I, which I never really got into, and I think it's because this kind of dominated for me and pushed it aside, and I just never got back to listening to it on cassette. I think the cassette wasn't that good either. And that's the biggest problem with cassettes, is they're kind of hit and miss. Sometimes their quality's good. Sometimes there's problems with the cassette. It jams up, or it doesn't sound right, or it skips pieces. There's all kinds of different things that happens with it. But this one worked very well. A little bit scratchy, but not too bad. So about the album, it's, before I do the track by track here, is it's got a lot of acoustic sounding to it, like acoustic guitar, acoustic piano, even some acoustic bass on here, and some sax as well. So it's not as a big production as some of the albums that came after it. Doesn't have those big radio hits like those other albums either, so a lot of people kind of put it down as not a great album. But to be honest with you, for many years this was right up there. The only album that was ahead of it for the longest time was Security, and then So kind of went ahead of it for a while, and it's down a little bit from there, and then of course Peter Gabriel III as well. So it's got a lot of piano on it, like I said, a lot of acoustic guitar on it, a lot of bass, a lot of different sounds. Like, there's a lot of instrumentation on this album. It varied, a lot of varied on it. So we'll start with the and just so you know, I really don't have any bad tracks on the album. Maybe the least one is Flotsam and Jetsam, which is kind of okay. It's not as memorable as some of the others, but it's not a bad tune by any stretch. Okay, so we start out with On the Air, which is maybe my favorite track on the album. I like his vocals on this. They're fantastic. Kind of like the guitar a bit too as well. I do like the piano on here as well, but I like the piano on just about every track, so I don't really want to keep repeating that, so I won't. And then I like the way it exits this song. It's building up with that piano keyboard sound that is building right up, and then all of a sudden it jumps into DIY, which I like quite a bit. It's just, I always, whenever I hear this song, I immediately start listening for DIY to come out. It doesn't always happen though, I like the drum part on DIY at the beginning. It builds up the song, and then you get this really catchy kind of melody I like. So DIY and On the Air, probably my two favorite tracks on this album. And then you go, the next track is down at the bottom here because I missed it when I was writing it down, which is A Mother of Violence. This is a I like those. This is the song with the insect noises at the beginning. You'll hear it, insects, and then buzzing like a bee or possibly a fly noises at the opening. The piano gives the tune its kind of melody. So the piano is kind of the backbone of the melody on this. The big thing about this album, especially more so than a lot of his other albums, I think, is the little stories that he tells. I like them all. The Mother of Violence. Fear is the mother of violence. I always love that kind of stuff. What created this or what created that. I always like that. So, great track. A Wonderful Day in a One-Way World. Yeah, this has got this kind of cool guitar bit and drum bit that goes back and forth, like Oh, I love that. It's so catchy. White Shadows next. It's a synthesizer opening with some bass, a lot of keyboard parts that are good in this particular track. Another good piano backdrop. It's fantastic. And I always thought, for years I've always kind of thought that this song would have made a good track on Trick of the Tail or Wind in the Wuthering for Genesis. I mean, they would never put it on there because it's his song and he's not in the group, so you're not going to take somebody's song and put it on your album. But I always thought it would make a good. It would have fit in. It might have fit in a little better on Wind in the Wuthering, but it's just something about the song gives me that same mood, you know. The next song out is Indigo. This is maybe my personal anthem. When I was a young person, if I was feeling kind of off or self-conscious or not feeling like things were going right, I often would play this song, and for some reason it would put things in perspective for me, I guess is the best way to put it. So that's my biggest reason why I like this song, is because of that. The next tune, Animal Magic. Hey, I don't know. I always think if this song had come out now, people would be saying, "Oh, this has got a lot of social commentary here." Yeah. So to me, that's whenever I see this song now, that's the thing that comes to my mind is a social commentary. I like the guitar and the drum riff in this particular track quite a bit as well. Then we get to the number 8 track, which is Exposure. This is a guitar, really standout guitar and drums on this track, I think. I really like the way it fits into the song. The keys and the bass are pretty strong as well. And then right at the end, the bass is so good, you know, just such strong vocals again too. This is the one that Robert Fripp used the Fripponics on, and you can hear it if you're listening. If you know what the Fripponics are, you can hear it pretty clearly here. The next track, Flotsam and Jetsam, lots of piano on it. That's the best part about the song. Not really all that memorable. It's the one track on the album that, you know, I never really loved the song, or I didn't hate it. It kind of reminds me of the song itself doesn't sound anything like this, but it's the same kind of thing that I used to get with what's that song? Jacob's Ladder on my Permanent Waves album. I always liked it, but I really didn't listen to it that much. And this is kind of the same kind of mood. I mean, the songs are so vastly different. One's like epic length and long, and this one is just not that long in that. But it just reminds me of that. And you know, sometimes stuff like that happens. The next one is Perspective, number 10. Another good track. This is the rocker on the album. It's kind of heavy, got some pretty heavy guitar riffing here, and the sax is very strong on this particular. There's a fairly lengthy sax solos and bits and pieces of it here on this particular song. It's a bit of a standout instrument on the song. And then we, of course, wind up the album with Home, Sweet Home. A nice piano opening to the song. It's kind of him talking about his girl or women in general. I'm not really sure exactly what he's talking about here, but that's what it feels like. And it's a pretty sweet song, I think. Hence the name, Home Sweet Home. So there you have it. That is to me a good solid album. Like there's no tracks on this album that I just want to skip when I hear them. And none of them, fortunately, have been burned out or overkilled, because not many of these songs get a lot of airplay. On the air, I've heard on the radio, but not that often. It's not a huge hit. It's probably the biggest song on the album, but the rest of them, you know, they don't get that much airplay, and, you know, I only really ever hear them if I'm listening to the album more. Some of these actually sound almost as good or better on the Peter Gabriel Plays Live. DIY comes to mind. That song's really good. It's a little bit flat on the studio album, but much more lively sounding on the Plays Live album. So this is a great album. Like I said, it deserves this kind of attention. I'm surprised it never really made masterpiece for me, but there's a lot of Gabriel albums in the ones, but not really. It never really quite made that little extra jump. The only one is Gabriel 3. The others are they're in the one area. They move up and down, but they never quite make it high enough for me to consider them for a one. And this is one of them. It's just, this has been, at one point, was probably my favorite album for a while when I first got it, more so than even Security at the time. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated, and we'll be back next week, and I think next week I will stick with doing the album I had planned to do tonight, and that's going to be AC/DC's Highway to Hell. I had planned to do it, but decided on the 11th hour to go with Peter Gabriel II, or Scratch if you prefer. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and so please like, subscribe, and we will see you again next Monday for yet another album. So take care. Bye.